Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Bruno with 360 Suite from my Boston home office today. Thanks all for joining. I think we've got over 350 people who registered for this event that's live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So today, our chat, we did that actually quite successfully, I think, back in July. So the topic of the chat today is going to be around ask your questions around BobJ to the experts that we have today. And we've got actually three phenomenal experts today. We've got Patrick Sims from SAP. Patrick, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Bruno. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patrick Sims. I'm with SAP's Global Center of Excellence for Analytics. And I've been with the BusinessObjects side of the house for about 18, almost 19 years now.
And Patrick, where are you based?
I'm based in Virginia, outside of DC.
Awesome. Then we've got the other Patrick who's with us. So let's call him, the Canadian Patrick or so. Patrick, a couple words.
I've put the Canadian jersey just there so people are not confused. So yeah, indeed, afternoon and morning, everybody. Patrick, originally from Montreal, Canada, but based out of London. Started at BusinessObjects 20 years ago here in the UK, and part of the 360 Suite team.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Keith, a couple words.
Sure. Keith Johnson, Chief Technology Officer for CBeyond Data. We were based in here, Northern Virginia as well, and been on the BusinessObjects or Crystal Enterprise platform going back to the early 2000s. So I've got the gray hair to prove it.
Thank you very much, Keith. And before we start, by the way, so the goal today is really ask your questions around BobJ in the chat box. And then we'll do our very best to get to you. Actually, last time a lot of people tried to trick Patrick, but nobody found a way to ask him a question he couldn't answer. So that was actually quite a lot of fun. And before we start as well, as I've seen on social medias on LinkedIn that actually CBeyond is hiring. So I think you guys have got some open positions right now. And probably if people are interested, they should go on LinkedIn and check for CBeyond data. Is that correct, Keith?
That would be great.
And also 360 Suite is hiring actually in Canada and in France. So also feel free to visit our website there. While questions are coming in, you'll see that I'm actually a hockey fan. And Patrick also is a hockey fan as well. So we'll have a lot of fun, and we might be teasing each other. So to be fair, actually today is, since we've got two persons from DC, I've got another hat with their local team. So with
there you go. Go Caps.
So two's always better than one. So and definitely, we play better than the guys in Canada. So that should be all fine. So anyway, let's fire things up. So before we go through all the questions, Patrick's and guys, have you tested 4.3? What can you tell me about it? And how's hybrid on that?
Well, I can say I've been playing with it since the beta started. And I'm just to clarify, I'm an old Webby guy, right? So that's my great love, as Bruno knows from many things we've done together. But I got to say, I love it. I love the simplification of the user experience, but without any loss of the full capability. So Webby remains in my opinion, the Cadillac of any analytic tool out there. But I think that the user experience overhaul has made it, again, more accessible to people who have, I think, been schooled in the Tableaus and Clicks of the world, the keep it too simple kind of thing. And I think that it helps return Webby to its grandeur, because, ad hoc is really what? Self-service, right? So, it was the original self-service tool, and I think it still reigns supreme. So I think it's been great. And then from the hybrid perspective, I love it from the user change management perspective of, if people do start to move to SAC, it looks and feels like SAC. So, that whole desire or stated goal of user experience harmonization that we've had since before we were acquired by SAP, I think is finally coming to fruition. I'll start with that.
I'm happy to step in now. My background back at school is in programming. So for me, I started with Crystal Reports, actually, and I joined Crystal Decisions before the acquisitions by BusinessObjects. So my old love, I guess, is Crystal Reports because of the coding aspect of it. But obviously, self-service with Webby is awesome. Thanks to the crazy power of the universe, which I don't think is beaten by anybody today, in my opinion. But my real love and background is technical architecture, servers and clusterings and performance and security. And the architecture of BusinessObjects, if you think about it, is over 20 years old and is still solid, more solid than most other things on the market. And well, then of course, I was very pleased when SAP announced 4.3 and at least 7 years of extra support, because it deserves it. Yes, it doesn't have maybe all the latest bells and whistles that SAC and others may offer, but its core capabilities still do not exist in other platforms today. So there's still a very relevant place for SAP BusinessObjects.
Keith, you want to throw in a couple words, or should we look at the questions?
Just from personal experience, we've been using 4.3 at least internally and for presentations since I guess it was early July. We haven't deployed any clients on it quite yet, but we are. But that is in the schedule for the late October, November timeframe. So we're looking forward to getting it out. Getting out in customers' hands and getting it used. So,
okay, so I see the first couple questions coming in. So I've got one from the awesome Kimberly. So she's got a question: preparing for an upgrade to 4.2 SP8. Plan to use patch 400, but it looks like the patch was pulled. Any idea on when patch 500 will be released, and why did patch 400 get removed? You know anything about that?
So hi, Kimberly. We had a discussion about this yesterday. So I checked the maintenance calendar again, and it looks like patch 500 is due either this week or next. And I still have not heard from India as to why 400 went missing.
Well, probably, Patrick, if you hear something back afterwards, just please share with us some information, and we'll be more than happy to exchange that with Kimberly.
Yep, we'll do. We'll do.
Then we got another question from Madhu. What is actually SAP BusinessObjects' future?
Well, I guess I'll take that one first. So, as laid out in the BI product statement of direction, which came out in November of 2019, we are continuing to invest in business objects, right? 4.3 is the first proof of that. Where we go from there, we don't know whether that's going to be a 4.4 or a 5.0. Obviously SEC is where we are doing our innovations, but the other key thing is we are investing in BobJ, not only in things like the user experience overhaul, but also then in making more and more technical links from a hybrid standpoint between BobJ and SAC. For instance, with 4.3, you can now use your BobJ security model. You can push that up to SAC. You've got the ability to use not only universes, but also even Webby documents as a data model. So we're continuing, and even some pieces of Crystal reports. So we're continuing to look at not only evolving the on-prem platform, but continuing to do more and more from a technical hybrid standpoint.
And let's face it, 4.3 was just out, so it's very difficult to say, well, you've got all the service packs that first need to get out
Right.
before you do any announcements. So I guess probably one of the reasons behind the question of Madhu is there was a lot of questions before in terms of the future of BobJ, because there was probably from the SAP side just different conflicting communications on the topic, which led a lot of customers asking, well, what should I do? And there was no clear answer for quite a bit of time. But I've actually seen on various slides from SAP that actually, it shows clearly that there is going to be some things after. But right now, is it? Yeah, nobody knows. Is it going to be 4.4, 5, whatever? So
yeah.
I guess it's still very early on that, and actually we see a lot of people are still actually in 4.2. So it just takes time to put things together. Then we have another question actually. There's a big lack of dashboarding functionality. On premise, my clients are starting moving away from BobJ, even mobile, also same. So I think that question also was from Madhu. Maybe Chris, if you can show that question on the screen, that would be cool. Thank you. So what can you say about dashboarding in 4.2, 4.3? Because actually that issue around the dashboarding has been it's been an issue for customers, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm going to go to Tableau because they've got dashboards and BobJ doesn't. And I've got issues with mobile. Can you guys answer to that?
So I'll take that one just for initial. So I know we've run into that same kind of question from clients about dashboarding. Lumira has been out there, but one of the things I think is underrepresented in the dashboarding area is being able to leverage Webby. And I think Webby has really gotten between, I guess, Service Pack 6, Service Pack 7, the dashboarding kind of capabilities for Webby have come a long ways in terms of leveraging that as a dashboarding solution for some of our clients, where we've built Webby reports that are equivalent to some of the dashboarding solutions that we've seen out in the marketplace. So if it's not something you've looked into as a dashboarding option, I would definitely recommend take another look at Webby and being able to provide that kind of capability.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that Webby is a reporting tool. Yes, it has great dashboarding capabilities, but often what we hear that people want and the reasons why they claim they go to Tableau or Power BI or maybe SAC, right, is they're not trying to build dashboards, they're trying to build applications. And that's why they like Lumira so much. Lumira was the competitor, the on-prem competitor of these third parties we heard before. So if you want to build an app, use Lumira Designer or go SAC. But if you want to build a dashboard to have tiles and KPIs and those charts, Webby is fully able to do this. And we ran a webinar with SAP, the 360 team, a year ago, where SAP Webby product manager actually showed how to move from a Webby report to a Webby dashboard. Again, not an app. And the result was great. It didn't take forever to do. So again, it's not a dashboarding solution, it's dashboarding capabilities. And as long as you're not trying to build an app, and you have a very strong backend engine to do everything. So yeah, that'll be my extra comment on that.
And Madhu is probably what we'll do after the event is we'll share with you a presentation we got from the product manager of SAP around building dashboards in Webby. And in fact, funny enough, it's a topic that we're going to have for user group probably in the next month or so that we have in DC. And so there'll be content as well available online after. And the customers that have been using the dashboards in Webby, actually for at least a good 80% of the customers, actually that did the job from what I've been hearing. So
yeah, and if I might, Bruno, so like I think Patrick's point was key, and that is, the old way of thinking was dashboard. So, I have to compare this tool or that tool. And that's really that we have to get past that, because yes, the word dashboard itself means so many different things to so many different people at this point, right? And so, yeah, Webby does handle light dashboarding capabilities fantastically, just as well or better in some ways than a Tableau or a Click. And SAC stories do the same thing. But to Patrick's point, a lot of people genuinely think of dashboards in more of that application with a lot of rigor and control and guided swim lanes and things like that. And Lumira Designer is a great way to do that, as much as SAC Analytic Design too. So I think it's really maybe step away from that word and really kind of define what it is that you're trying to do. I mean, heck, even BI workspaces are good enough dashboards for some people.
We've got another question from Rick. How would you get Universe Design users to switch to IDT? Who can answer to that?
Well, I'm sure Keith will agree with me. And why have they not switched already?
Disable their access. How about that? That's a good start.
Rick, thanks for the question. I can appreciate though that if you have universes you've been maintaining forever, why converting them to UNX, right? Webby supports them just fine. But yes, I'd like to think if you're starting a new project, at very least, you'll start it in IDT. It has more features, more capabilities, supports more data sources, Snowflake, Google BigQueries in 4.3. And if SAP one day goes to a version 5, well, maybe they'll say we deprecate UNV, sorry, So at very least, new projects should be in IDT. I mean, Keith, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, even from personal experience, I think, and my experience still goes back to the UNV days as well. So, but, when we did the switch over to leveraging IDT and the development of UNX universes, I just found the interface a lot more user-friendly from a developer's perspective, cut, copy, paste, just a lot of that day-to-day kind of maintenance within the universe was much easier within the IDT interface than it was back in the old Universe Designer tool. So that was my personal experience. So again, I'd be sort of curious as to why the hesitation to moving to IDT. What is sort of holding them back? Because I just I feel that interface, the newer interface, is just so much easier to use from a maintenance kind of perspective, as well as even just building from scratch, right? It's just so much quicker to use, but that's just me.
And I can tell you from the corporate perspective that we get this question a lot still from customers who, well, unfortunately, it's not the positive way that the question was just asked. It's more the, can I still stay on UNV? But I agree with you guys. I mean, I think the UNX is fantastic. It was a great leap forward for us. And I do think it's easier to use and to deploy and everything else.
And by the way, Patrick, can you say anything about 360, how easy it is to go from to Repoint?
Well, okay, I'm glad that you bring it up. I was going to say that on the 360 point of view, SAP has added third-party capabilities in the IDT for UNX, and we have released a solution to help you maintain in bulk and faster your universes if they are in the new format, in the UNX format. So for all of you with massive universes, investing a lot of time to maintain these universes, yeah, we have a solution at 360 thanks to the new API available to us. So.
And it works very, very well. Another question, I think from Rick. In 4.3, can Webby support multiple formats in a single run? That was from Mike, actually. So Chris, if you can show that question up on the screen. So in 4.3, can Webby support multiple formats in a single run?
Now, I don't know if you guys read it the same way as me. I guess it means in a scheduling an instance. Mike, if you want to clarify, but if you mean scheduling a Webby report, and that report is scheduled in multiple formats at once, I don't believe you can do it with a normal schedule, but it is possible still with a publication piece. Or Patrick, I don't know if you want to back me up on this one.
Yeah, I was trying to. I'm just going to go out and take a quick peek because I've seen that, and I was trying to remember where I had seen that. I don't know, Patrick.
I don't. What Patrick said sounds right, but I'm trying to clear some cobwebs and see if I've got some stuff on it. But I don't. I can't remember where I saw something on it either.
Let's put a pin in that, and Bruno, we'll come back to that in a couple minutes. How about that?
Sure, no problem at all. Then the next question is, could BusinessObject 4.3 Fiori layout help to create a dashboarding feeling for Webby? Do you recommend Lumira? Interesting one.
I mean, I would say, actually, to my last comment, BI workspaces could help. You know, the overhauled BI workspaces in the Fiori Launchpad can certainly give a dashboard feel from pieces of Webby documents or pieces of Crystal reports. I still think that's an underused capability. Would I recommend Lumira? Sure. For those who have an on-premise need for, you know, Lumira discovery, yes, but just be advised that, you know, its runway is only for another 4 years, right? December 31, 2024 is when, you know, support ends for Lumira discovery. And so we corporate wise would say that's a, you know, perhaps a good moment for you to start looking at SAC. But, you know, no, Lumira is a great tool. 2.4 just came out. And so if you have genuine on-premise needs, it's still a great piece of our kit.
And, you know, I come from the consulting world. 4 years, I'm sure, for some people, they want to have a very long vision, but 4 years is a very long time, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, to build something today in Lumira Designer and you keep it for 2-3 years, you know, I'm sure your requirements and your data sources will have changed by then anyway. And then, well, you know, who knows what's going to be. That would be the same for every solution. So yeah, no, I agree with Patrick. And just to go back on the scheduling question, I checked quickly, and yes, it's the same behavior in 4.3 as in 4.2. If you do a normal schedule of a Webby, it's one format at a time. If it's a publication, you can multiple select. It comes with the same restrictions as you had in 4.2.
Hope that answers the question. Then we've got a question from Thierry. So I get somebody over from France, or maybe from Quebec, actually, Patrick. Who knows? Okay, SAP BI 4.2 SP8. So Chris is going to show the question on the screen. So SAP BI 4.2 SP8 patch 200 with Windows 2016, SQL Server 2016, SSO and connection. For our legacy system, we have a production SAP BI with SSO to report on it. For our UAT, system, test, and dev legacy system, multiple copies with, we have a UAT. SAP BI platform SSO is set up to report against production generic users, are set up to report against a different other environments. With UNV, is there a function / service to integrate SSO and connection selection?
It's quite a detailed and specific question. Perhaps we want to answer that one offline. And
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I
mean, it's a very good question. Don't get me wrong, but it's so specific for. Let's answer this one offline and move to the other, maybe more general, fit for all questions.
So actually, Kim was asking, by the way, so this event is being recorded and it's available afterwards on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So we have a question from Rick will Webby reports be available as a data source for Lumira Designer?
I have not seen that in the roadmap.
And for SAC, although I have not tested it, but for SAC, if you want to use Webby as a data source, you need the live data connector 3.1. So it was supposed to be in 3.0. It was a bit delayed. So 3.1 was released a week ago or so.
Correct.
So although I have not tested it personally, it should be technically possible. And Patrick seems to concur.
Yep, definitely. I've seen it. It works.
By the way, is there any end of life for UNX support, or for UNV support? Sorry.
Not that I've seen. So, that's why with every subsequent release, we continue to support the UNV, but we're encouraging you to move to the UNX. There were some flashpoints where UNX was the only type of universe you could use for certain tools. But SAC being one of them, but now we support UNVs as well. So I'd say for you clinging to UNVs, you still have some time. But as Keith and Patrick and Bruno all concurred with, I think you definitely, it's worth your while to move into the UNX world.
We've got a question from Bob. So Bob is asking, I'm interested to go to Snowflake. Does BusinessObjects support Snowflake? And how easy is it to go there? So maybe Patrick Perrier on that one?
The Canadian Patrick.
Right.
Yeah, Snowflake was added in 4.2 SP8. So it's available for UNX only. So you see, if you want to have all the latest innovations, never mind the latest functionality, but innovations, we strongly, all of us strongly encourage you to go to UNX or IDT. So it is supported. Snowflake is a relational database. So, the same ways you would do your universes on top of, other relational databases. And if your plan is to migrate from, one relational database to Snowflake, yes, there's some actions that needs to be done at the universe level and so on. We wrote a blog or a white paper. I forgot. I wrote it a long time ago anyway. So
I thought I saw your name.
It was a 70-page document, Patrick. So I guess it's not a blog. The good thing is, if you want to sleep at night, you can just read it. I guarantee you. So it's not like a light reading,
But it's Snowflake is a great database for those who are interested. BusinessObjects supports it, of course. And if you're converting stuff, there is some work that needs to be done. And please have a look at our blogs to put you in the right direction.
I see an interesting question. Can you share some business cases for SAC as hybrid implementation with BobJ on-prem? So that's an interesting one. You guys got any good stories around that to share? DC Patrick?
Sure. So to me, the greatest use case is it's a sales play you may have heard of from SAP. It's extend analytics, right? Let's say you've got a Webby document that you're in love with. It serves your purposes all along. It does a lot of great things, but you want to do some what if, or you want to do some forecasting, or you want to do something like that. Taking that Webby document that you have curated through the years, you have a lot of intellectual capital in that, using that as a data source for SAC to do what if, using the planning capabilities, to do some of the augmented analytics on it, to even make sure, let's do some smart insights, smart assist features to make sure that we're actually analyzing the right things. That I think is the first great thing you can start to do in terms of extending and expanding upon what you get with your BobJ capabilities right now.
Keith, any comments around that?
Yeah, I would say that's a perfect scenario, right? Where you can still leverage the horsepower engine of BobJ and leverage all that legacy development, right? But now through SAC, get all some of or leverage some of those new cool what if kind of tools for more of a public base, right? Or maybe for your external customers or external users, where you don't want them necessarily coming in directly into your internal system, but still be able to leverage that data for their own reporting or analysis needs. I think that's a great scenario. I don't know, Patrick from Canada.
Actually, if you have a look on the SAP Insider website, there's a great session made by Ken from the Red Cross, where he talked about his experience of using SAC on top of a universe. He talked about, I would say the pros and cons of live versus importing the data. He's a big fan of importing because you leverage then the HANA performance. And then just like DC Patrick said, the data is now in SAC. You do the viz that you want, but then you have the added features of, the AI and other things as well. So it's, there's some great use cases there to do leverage the power of the universe with the self-service and the new modern word features of the cloud. Yeah.
And with 4.3, is the first version of 4.3 supporting hybrid?
Yes.
Yes, and even backwards to, I mean, the like 4.2 Service Pack 7 or 8 can even support the live universe connection too. So.
Yeah.
Good. Venkata's got a question. I have a UNX created with the single source, and later I have an enhancement to add another source info to the same UNX. So is it a divisible? So I have a UNX created with the single source, and later I have an enhancement to add another source info in the same UNX. So is it a divisible?
There's a few questions on that subject, which is a very it's a very frequent question. And no, if you build your universe as a single source universe, you cannot convert it later to a multi-source universe. So that's a very common question, but no, you cannot change your mind later on.
We got a question from VJ around Snowflake again. Can Snowflake be connected in Crystal Reports Designer 2016 tool in 4.2 SP8?
Yeah, I've done it. It works.
Okay, I'll let me read the question.
Christophe is a bit slow at putting the questions on. He's on a break.
That's why he's off screen.
Let me go through some others. Okay, Mike's got a question. We are currently 4.2 SP8, so just don't answer too quickly, guys, because I need to find the questions, because they're actually, people don't see, but they're actually going live, and then they come in and out pretty quickly. So we are currently 4.2 SP8 patch 2, and are there any significant changes to Quas or the .NET SDK with 4.3?
I do not know on that one.
Should I read it again?
No. It's okay. Well, I don't know about query as a web service, but the only thing I would say to that is in SP00 of 4.3, there are things missing. It was in the article. There'll be some catch-up features coming in SP1. So I would suggest you read around these available articles on the SAP website. And in terms of the .NET SDK, I'm not a programmer, but .NET SDK has not had any evolution for years and years and years and years. Everything's about Java. Well, even the Java is old. It's the REST SDK now. So there'll be nothing new in the .NET SDK. If anything, it will be less. But again, I recommend you check the SAP website on that one.
We've got a question from an anonymous person that says, is BOBJ 4.3 providing out-of-the-box better administrative reports than previously supplied by the query builder?
You mean the CMC, the Audit Dashboard?
That's the only detail I have on that. So,
I mean, we continually try to improve the out-of-the-box auditing capability. Most long-term customers still use Matt Shaw's universe that he created to try and do your own internal. And frankly, even more customers are finally realizing that they should use something like 360 Suite to better do that anyway, right? I mean, that's partners like you guys do fill in the cracks better than we do sometimes. But we do try with every point release to give more in that admin dashboard that's available in the CMC.
Yeah, I was going to say we utilize the 360 eyes for all of that reporting, whether it's auditing or the internal CMS reporting. No question.
Yeah, you guys just do it better.
I've got actually a question for the audience. Instead of asking you guys questions all the time, I'm actually curious to know from the audience, and I'd be interested to see that in the comment boxes, if anybody who's on has actually, or how many people have installed 4.3. So I'm actually curious to see if people could put in the comments, how many people are in 4 or have actually installed 4.3. Typically there is always a certain latency on such new versions, so I'm actually quite interested to see that.
So for information, while people answer that question, 4.3 SP00 patch 2 is out, and the SP1 is scheduled for December.
I can confirm that internally.
Is there? I don't know if you guys heard it. Is there any big additions coming in Service Pack 1 that didn't quite make it into the release in July?
I've heard that actually. So back to one of our earlier questions about mobile. I've heard that the enhanced Webby mobile experience should be coming out around that time frame. So I'm hoping. I haven't seen anything that says no to that yet. So. And what that would mean is, instead of having to actually wonder about what types of charts you're using on your Webby document, it'll simply take all of the charts and do them in responsive swim lanes for whatever device you're on. So, I mean, to me, if you are using mobile, that's a huge step forward for us.
Cool.
And going from 32 to 64 in 4.3, does that typically have any impact to the customer or on the customers?
So Bruno's a sales guy, not a technical guy. So
Bruno stumps the technical guys. Like, what is he asking us?
So, I'm sure he meant having the client tools moving from 32-bit to 64-bit, right?
It's obviously always bits, Yeah.
I would like to think this is something which is extremely welcomed. It was a very painful process to have 32-bit drivers to create universes and content, but 64-bit drivers on the server, things needed to be configured with the same names and all that. Nobody has 32-bit workstations and stuff anymore, and vendors do not create 32-bit drivers. Yeah, so since SAP will have deprecated some old connections, I would like to think nearly everybody would appreciate the 64-bit client tools now.
It should make the connectivity pieces much easier, right? Then you're back on the same kind of playing field again. So that is that is much helpful.
We've got another question here. How to display and auto refresh like every 10 seconds of Webby reports on a shop floor display screens or standalone PC without a manual intervention?
It's in 4.3. It's even in the 4.2 theory, I'm pretty sure, but it's definitely in 4.3.
Yep.
Okay, we've actually got Mark who says he installed 4.3 in a sandbox, or will be installing that later this year. Dario is saying, okay, installed 4.3, migrate from 4.2 SB8, and everything's okay. So actually, that's the type of comment I'm curious to know if you've got any issues or not, just to share with everyone. So that's actually pretty good.
Actually, Bruno, I'd like to ask Dario if he can share if he did a side-by-side, on old server to new server, or he installed 4.3 on top of 4.2. I'd be curious to see how he did it.
I've got actually somebody who says I need to actually ask that question. So I'll ask it, that's good with it. It's the same user, but the thing is, by the way, I don't know who it is. It just says LinkedIn user. So it says mock upgrade to 4.3 done, etc. Issues report to SAP. Well, fine, but what are the issues? So that's what I'm really interested to know. So that was the question I was actually asked to ask.
So I can see that Dario replied. He said side by side, which is well, does not surprise me, right? So we did a LinkedIn event back in August or early September about side by side versus in place. It is on our YouTube channel if you want to see. I did a live side by side migration. I've done it in place as well. In place did not go so well, but side by side went perfectly first shot. So yeah.
Sumit's got a question. What are the prereqs to 4.3? Are there any specific prereqs for 4.3 when moving from 4.2?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the documentation.
Yeah, I mean, as I remember, there wasn't anything specific that sort of jumped out when moving to or deploying 4.3.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I talk about this in my live recording. Is simple. Well, if you do it side by side, like a lot of people have mentioned here, like Mike and others and Dario, build your new box the same way you build a 4.2, but you build it as a 4.3. You just build your box and you migrate. You don't have to install or configure anything specific for the action of migrating. No, it's very simple.
Well, what do you recommend, Canadian Patrick, around when you upgrade? Do you recommend like a side-by-side or in place? What are the best? There are pros and cons for both. So I know these are long debates. What's your preference? And I'm curious to hear about Keith and DC Patrick as well, with a good hockey team.
Well, me simple. I've done over 15 years of consultancy. If I wanted to put the best odds on my side, I would do a side by side. I'm not saying there's people out there who won't say, oh, it worked fine for me, but in place, it's and again, I wrote a blog about this. I don't know if Christophe will share it, but some people, if you come from 4.1 or old version of 4.2, you had this server for many years. Maybe it's Windows 2012, which Microsoft will stop supporting soon anyway. Maybe you have old drivers, you have a lot of old dev stuff all over the place. maybe even your IT team would welcome you to start a fresh server and migrate side by side. But even if you decided to do it in place, first of all, if we just think about testing purposes, remember you don't have the old server anymore, right? You can't compare side by side. You can't say, oh, how was my old, my old report and versus my new report. And the second thing, if something doesn't work and you run out of time because it's the prod server, then you need to roll back from your backups and your VMs and all this. And it's not easy for everybody to just do that. And finally, it's not like installing a service pack. And I'm sorry for DC Patrick. I know SAP like to say this. It's just like dumping a service pack, and it's not the case because going to 4.3, you get Tomcat 9, for instance. And somebody mentioned about authentication failing after upgrading. Well, that will happen. Your Active Directory, single sign-on will be broken. You need to reconfigure those things. So SSL will have to be reconfigured. So there's a number of things that will need to be done. Is not going from SP2 to SP3. It's more work than that. So again, I wrote a blog. I spent a lot of time answering this. I recommend having a look at my blog. I go in quite a bit of details. So, but that's my opinion on this.
Any other comments around that, Keith, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Patrick that it's the every scenario is a little bit different, where you've got to sort of weigh the pros and cons of upgrade in place or deploy new. Deploying new is it's usually always cleaner, but sometimes you don't have that option, whether it's time, resources, or whatever. I think one of the advantages over the last couple of years we've seen, and I knew you guys take advantage of it, is the cloud systems, right? Being able to stand up, tear down, rebuild cloud systems at a drop of a hat versus, I hate to say this, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was iron, right? So you're having to, building a server wasn't a click through kind of process, right? It was a couple of hours, stand it up. So I think now that we've, a lot of customers are leveraging cloud systems, it's easier to be able to test some of those scenarios because it is easier to stand up those environments much quicker for testing. So I again, I would sort of go back to, deploying new is safer route. But there are times where, you're going to have to go down you don't have that choice where you're going to have to do the upgrade in place based on the customer circumstance. So.
Yeah, and the corporate answer would be, hey, we can do both. My personal experience is more in if you can do side by side, that's always the better way. Yeah, for the points that Patrick has made simply and also in his 80-page blog.
And the article is a lot shorter than the Snowflake one, so you might, if you read it at night, you probably won't fall asleep. So, I'll just.
But yeah, just to add one last thing on what Keith said. Yes, there are scenarios where people will say, I know it's rare, but there's still some people with physical servers. Well, they're not going to go and buy 12 new physical servers because they're clustered and stuff. Yeah, I know it's rare, but yes. And people not using the cloud, calling the IT guys and say, hey, I need 5, 6 new VMs, and they need to have this, and they need to have that, and Kerberos for single sign-on. And some people say, it will take a month to rebuild all these things. Can you not just do an in place and spend a month to make it work somehow, right? So it's not a 100% thing, but like I said, if you want to put the odds on your side and everybody is happy to make it work, I think you will like doing it side by side.
Okay. Thanks. And by the way, I think Chris shared in the comments somewhere an article or your blog article that you published, Patrick, around in place or side by side. So Thierry sent back his question. He says, well, Bruno, it's a short version. So thank you very much. That's very welcome. Can a report query be built on the latest Excel instance in a repository of a base report not that I saw in 4.2 SP8. Does that help you guys or not? Or we should still take that offline after?
I'm trying to read this if it means you can build a Webby, and instead of picking universe, you pick Excel, and that Excel being the result of an instance. I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. That's sort of my assumption.
I haven't tested that, but that was coming in 4.3, right? The ability to build Webby reports on top of Webby reports.
Yes, the Webby document as a data model where you could take that apart.
Yeah, but an Excel instance.
We can take it offline after that. That's all good. We've got actually a question from a YouTube, somebody who's watching us on YouTube, saying, from Larry, in 4.3 on premise, is support available for authentication using the SAML, I don't know, 2.0 protocol? So do you guys know anything about that?
I know we support SAML 3. I'm not sure if it's backwards compatible or not. I would assume so, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, because we're using SAML 2 at a customer site on 4.2, but I haven't tested it on 4.3 yet.
Yeah. No.
Another question is 4.3 Fiori Launchpad had does it have the same 4.2 folder security?
I believe so. Yes. Because the launchpads are at full parity, and there are even things that that the Fiori Launchpad in 4.3 can do that 4.2 BI Launchpad was not able to do. So
Yeah, it's just a different way of presenting the information. Yeah.
It's definitely, yeah. There's no question that the 4.3 Fiori Launchpad is a lot cleaner and a lot more user friendly than it was in 4.2, and a little bit faster too.
Okay. Another question.
This is a curious question. I'm trying to test this, but my server is a bit funny now. But what I would say, just like Keith or Patrick mentioned, is you wouldn't have to do that in 4.3 to try to create a Webby on top of a Webby scheduled as Excel. You could just create a Webby on top of a Webby instance, right? That's even simpler. You could benefit from that Webby as a data source thing, and then you just skip the Excel bit altogether. So, yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Issues with the SAP 4.3 upgrade. Is the existing 4.2 login functionality not working in 4.3? So that's one of the comments I had around 4.3. Trying to catch up with the different questions that we have.
If that question or statement was about the fact that when you build a new 4.3 server, you start with a fresh audit database, I wonder if that's what the statement was about. And yes, you have to start with a fresh audit database. If you need to keep the old audit database, you have two options. Well, keep the database, keep the old universe on top of it, and then you just do reports from the 4.2, reports from the 4.3, or you can even merge dimensions, the two. Or, like Keith and Patrick have said, you can get 360 eyes.
Another question is, in your opinion, why is it really advisable to migrate to 4.3, which really brings version 4.3 with respect to version 4.2, other than the typical reasons for for maintenance, and so on, or purely to put in place a new Fiori interface?
I mean, I think there's a number of advantages of, of moving to the new platform. I mean, we brought up a couple of those on the discussion so far, right? Standardizing on the 64-bit clients for development. Now, is it going to be a clean sweep for your customer? No, there's going to be some work there, right? So with the Fiori interface coming into play versus the old Launchpad interface, right? So people are going to have to, there's going to have to be a little bit of uptick in terms of training your customer or customer users in terms of that new interface and how to get around. But I think once they've gotten through the basics, I think it's a lot more user friendly in terms of that interface. In addition to power users, so the power users that you support from a Webby perspective, I think the new Webby interface makes things a lot simpler. It's easier to pick up. You don't have to be. Some of the feedback I've got from customers, sometimes they feel like Webby, you have to be a pseudo developer to really get in and take advantage of that ad hoc capability. I think the Fiori interface now makes that a lot easier, and you don't have to be as technical to understand some of that stuff. And in addition, being able to extend out to SAC, I think is a huge possibility of where you can take that too. So, it's not just because it's the new shiny penny on the block, right, or the new shiny car on the block. It really gives you some advanced capabilities or additional things to be able to leverage for your environment.
And from which version is Fiori available in 4.2? I can't remember which version. I think
SP5, right?
SP5 it started, but then it's still even in the Service Pack 8 version, you're still not really getting the full effect of what the 4.3 is like. But you're at least you can at least have people start to look at it. But if I may, I couldn't have said it better than Keith just said. But what I would add to that is, if you're losing BobJ users to Tableau or Click because they think it's easier, this is the kind of thing that can bring them back to the fold. If you've been trying to onboard new users who are used to more of an Excel, Tableau kind of world, this is a way to bring them into the fold and prove that, show how much more powerful Webby is as a tool than any of those other would-be pretenders. So I think that, everything Keith said about your existing user base is key, but also look at it from, are you losing users? Are you trying to gain new users? I think it helps with them for everything that Keith said too.
And actually, funny enough, is I spoke to a very large BobJ deployment. They've got like over 200,000 users, and they were saying, "Hey, Bruno, a year ago we wanted actually to get rid of BusinessObjects, and then everybody's saying, hey, I want to use Power BI, Tableau, etc." And the funny thing is, after a year, they were saying, well, actually, our BobJ actually is still expanding. And in terms of scheduling, the performances, because there's such a large deployment that they have to be cautious about all the tickets that they get, etc. And actually, they told me, you know what, the scheduling success that we get in BobJ is like 99%. Versus other solutions that don't necessarily have these capabilities and are not as reliable. So that's still a very, very strong point in general for BobJ. So, DC Patrick, do you still have some time for another question or two, or because I know you had to quit at 12, so 12 Eastern time, or how's your?
I've still got 15 or so.
Okay, let's maybe take another question or two, and then let's.
Bruno, do you want to? Kieran B has asked that question again about the auto refresh in Webby for the shop floor.
Yeah, I see it.
So I'll share my screen. So because I've answered that one already, but I'm happy to to show it live. So, and then I have a surprise for Bruno as well, which he doesn't know yet.
Wait until I see you, Patrick.
Which is the only reason why I'm sharing my screen for real. All right, can you see my screen, people? Yes?
Yes.
So as you can see, we have the best ice hockey team in the world. This is Canada winning the gold medal.
Come on.
Yeah. All right, so to answer the question, so this is for point 3. You log on to the new BI Launchpad. If this was a shop floor, that computer screen will either have a browser or you have a computer where you can stream to that computer screen. I've seen this many times. Then you go ahead and select the Webby report you want. So that's just an example here, a Webby sample. You click on the 3 dots, auto refresh, and you say, I want to refresh it every whatever amount of minutes. And then there's nothing to do here. This report, well, now I don't have a database here, but this report will then just auto refresh, and then you could press F11, remove all the browser stuff. So here you go. That's how you do it on a shop floor with auto refresh.
Pretty cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very nice. And also, Mike had a question: can you schedule to SharePoint Online with 4.3?
There's a reason why Bruno is asking.
So.
No, but 360 can do it.
I didn't want to say that, but I knew the answer. I didn't know that 360 could do it. So, yeah.
But
I think it's. Do you guys want to take another question, or we're good? What do you guys think?
Your call, Bruno.
Canadian Patrick. So, by the way, as you know, I didn't put this on, but I've also got my other hat. And by the way, Patrick, we're not talking about soccer earlier in Canada. It's about real hockey. So, because we've got the other Chris actually who's actually doing all the organization. He plays hockey, but it's underwater hockey. So sometimes internally we've got some confusions around that. But it really exists, and actually I've seen it. It's actually pretty cool. And he's actually been a world champion for that. So that's actually very, very nice. Okay, let me go through a last question. How well does HANA connect with 4.3? So that would be a good question for Patrick Sims.
From all reports that I've seen, it's great. In fact, we've seen a lot of people who have the use case of moving away from universes to do direct HANA connections with Webby and SAC both. So, we're definitely seeing, at least the feedback we're getting, success in that realm. And
actually, we see quite a few customers these days also going towards HANA. So it's it's still getting quite popular, despite some things with Snowflake, etc. But we've seen an increasing amount of customers going there with some very good stories in terms of performances. So that's pretty good. And I think
that includes HANA Cloud for 4.3 as well. So.
Can you say any words around HANA Cloud?
Just that, we've got the connector there. And we're continuing to beef up HANA Cloud and Data Warehouse Cloud as well. So, those are big product development strategy points with SAC and certainly, whatever we can do from a BobJ standpoint as well. So actually, I think BobJ connects to HANA Cloud better and faster than SAC did at first.
So guys, thank you very much. So when you log out, by the way, there is going to be a survey. Please take your time to fill up the survey and let us know how well we did or we didn't do, and hoping that we'll keep our jobs. That's the first thing. Another thing is there is actually a link to go on a virtual booth of 360. So, we're really happy to put all these events, but, at the end is we'd really like to show you what 360 can do and help you with your BOBJ to meet your goals, whether it's migration, cost reductions, compliance, and automation, and many other topics. So please make sure that you visit that. And if you've got some ideas around a future topic that we could bring up, I'd be more than happy to take the comments. And I see that it could be interesting to do something around either dashboards or around migration, in place, side by side. That was actually a good debate that I've really enjoyed. And that's always a very common question for people. So thank you very much, Patrick Sims from SAP from DC. Thank you very much, Keith Johnson from CB on Data. Appreciate your time as well, from DC as well. Thank you very much, Patrick Perrier, from the UK, Canadian Patrick. And then thanks a lot for Chris, who was behind trying to organize everything. And maybe, Chris, next time maybe you need to get on and show us a little bit about underwater hockey. So we're all very curious to see that. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Bruno. Thanks, 360, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks.